Some stories are etched into the soul of history. Tales whispered through generations, their truths often intertwined with myth and legend. These are tales of power, faith, and mystery, where the lines between reality and the supernatural blur. They speak of individuals who defied expectations and left an indelible mark on the world. Grigori Rasputin's story is one of them, a figure shrouded in controversy, revered by some, reviled by others. It begins in the frozen wilderness of Siberia, a land of vast expanses and unforgiving winters where life is a constant struggle against the elements, specifically in the remote village of Pokrovskoye, a place far removed from the glittering palaces and political intrigues of the Russian capital. Rasputin was a peasant, born into a world of hard labor and simple living. He was a farmer, a father, his early life seemingly destined for the same quiet existence as generations before him. But he was also a wanderer, a restless soul who claimed to experience visions of the divine, setting him apart from his peers. He was a stranik, a holy wanderer, embracing a life of pilgrimage and spiritual seeking. He was not ordained within the formal structure of the church, but he was revered by many for his perceived spiritual insight and wisdom. He walked the forests and fields, seeking God in the solitude of nature, drawing closer to what he believed was his divine purpose. His eyes were often described as hypnotic, piercing, capable of seeing into the depths of a person's soul. Rasputin spoke in simple parables, drawing upon the everyday experiences of the peasantry. Yet his words captivated listeners, resonating with their hopes, fears, and spiritual longings. He claimed to heal the sick, offering comfort and hope to those suffering from physical ailments. He sought to soothe the troubled, offering solace and guidance to those burdened by emotional distress. And he purported to foresee the future, adding an aura of mystery and intrigue to his already compelling persona. In rural Siberia, where faith and superstition were deeply intertwined, and the line between the natural and supernatural was often blurred, he was seen by many as a prophet, a divinely inspired messenger with extraordinary abilities. Despite his rough exterior and unconventional ways, he possessed a magnetic charisma, drawing people to him with an irresistible force. He also had a deep understanding of human nature, allowing him to connect with people on a profound and personal level. Rasputin's journey was both physical, taking him across the vast landscapes of Russia, and spiritual as he sought enlightenment and divine connection. This journey led him to monasteries and holy sites across Russia, where he absorbed the traditions and teachings of the Orthodox Church. He absorbed the rituals and practices of the Orthodox faith, immersing himself in its rich symbolism and traditions. But he blended these Orthodox practices with his own controversial beliefs, creating a unique and often unsettling spiritual philosophy. He taught that true grace could only be achieved after experiencing sin and undergoing sincere repentance, a concept that challenged conventional morality. This was a dangerous philosophy, one that could easily be misinterpreted and lead to moral corruption. This central idea, that one must pass through darkness and confront their own flaws in order to find true spiritual light, would ultimately define his life, his actions, and his complex and enduring legacy. The road from Siberia was long and arduous, a journey that tested his faith and shaped his destiny. But it ultimately led him to St. Petersburg, the opulent and decadent heart of the Russian Empire. Rasputin, the mystic peasant from the Siberian wilderness, was about to step onto the grand stage of history, a stage filled with intrigue, power, and impending doom. His arrival in the capital would irrevocably change not just his own fate, propelling him to heights of influence he could scarcely have imagined, but also the fate of an entire empire, setting in motion a chain of events that would lead to its ultimate collapse. The legend of Rasputin, the Siberian mystic who captivated a nation, was just beginning to unfold. St. Petersburg in the early 1900s, a jewel of the Russian Empire, stood as a testament to centuries of imperial ambition and artistic grandeur. It was a city of dazzling palaces, monuments to the Romanov dynasty, and yet, beneath the shimmering surface, deep unrest was brewing. The Romanovs ruled in opulence, seemingly untouchable in their gilded cages, surrounded by unimaginable wealth and privilege. But revolution simmered beneath the surface, fueled by poverty, inequality, and a growing desire for change among the masses. The seeds of discontent had been sown. Into this volatile world stepped Grigori Rasputin, a figure shrouded in mystery and controversy. He was a peasant among aristocrats, an outsider who would soon infiltrate the highest echelons of power. He was unkempt, his appearance often disheveled, his speech coarse and unrefined. Yet he radiated a strange, unsettling confidence that challenged the norms and expectations of the elite, making them question their own beliefs and values. The city's upper class, bored with tradition and increasingly obsessed with mysticism and the occult, found him utterly fascinating, a novelty that promised answers to questions they couldn't articulate. Seances and spiritualism were all the rage, a desperate search for meaning in a world on the brink of chaos. But Rasputin seemed authentic, a stark contrast to the parlor tricks and charlatans that populated the spiritualist scene. He presented himself as a direct link to the divine, a conduit for God's will on earth. Doors opened for him, seemingly by magic. He was quickly introduced to influential church leaders and members of the aristocracy, all eager to bask in his supposed spiritual glow. They were drawn to his cryptic prophecies, whispered promises of healing and salvation. They were captivated by the sheer force of his personality, his unwavering conviction in his own divine purpose. Rasputin's raw, untamed spirituality stood in stark contrast with the increasingly hollow and meaningless rituals of the imperial court, which had become detached from the needs of the people. He was welcomed into their opulent homes, asked to heal their ailments, both physical and spiritual, and to offer his unique brand of advice. The elite, blinded by their own desperation and yearning for something more, saw a holy man, a prophet sent to guide them. They didn't realize the long, dark shadow he would soon cast over the entire empire. Rasputin's very presence was a disruption, a jarring note in the carefully orchestrated symphony of imperial life. He was a sign of the changing times, a harbinger of the storm that was about to break. The city was undergoing a profound transformation, and with it, the destiny of the entire Russian Empire was hanging in the balance. The stage was set, the players were in place, and the drama of Rasputin's rise to power was about to unfold. A drama that would ultimately contribute to the empire's tragic and irreversible fall. Rasputin's legend grew quickly in the capital, fueled by whispers and speculation. He became a figure of intense fascination and growing notoriety. Built on contradiction, he was an enigma, a puzzle that many in St. Petersburg tried to solve, but few truly understood. By day, he offered prayers and guidance to the wealthy, a spiritual advisor sought after by the city's elite. His pronouncements were treated with reverence, mesmerizing high society, especially its women. They were drawn to his charisma and the promises he seemed to offer. By night, he indulged in drink and debauchery, reveling in the darker side of life with a fervor that shocked and intrigued, earning the nickname Mad Monk. It was a title that seemed to capture the essence of his paradoxical nature. He preached that true grace required sin and repentance, a controversial doctrine that challenged the conventional morality of the time. Blurring the line between saint and sinner, he walked a tightrope between the sacred and the profane. This philosophy let him justify his excesses as part of a divine plan. He saw himself as a tool of God, even in his moments of deepest transgression. Stories of his exploits, orgies, seductions, and scandal spread like wildfire. The whispers traveled through the halls of power and into the streets. Some called him a charlatan, a fraud preying on the vulnerable and the desperate. Others a misunderstood saint. They believed in his divine gifts and his ability to intercede with God. Rasputin thrived on this paradox, feeding on the attention and the power it brought him, manipulating those around him. He was a master of influence, pulling strings from the shadows. His influence grew, reaching into the highest echelons of Russian society. And so did the rumors. They swirled around him like a dark cloud, obscuring the truth. He was both healer and corrupter, offering solace and salvation while simultaneously indulging in vice. A man of immense contradictions. He embodied the tensions and anxieties of a society on the brink of change. The truth was elusive, lost in a maze of gossip, speculation, and deliberate obfuscation. But his power was real. It was a force to be reckoned with, a presence that could not be ignored. Rasputin was about to bring his whirlwind into the heart of the monarchy. The Romanovs were about to encounter a force unlike any they had ever known. The Russian court would never be the same. It was on the verge of a transformation, a descent into chaos. The mad monk's shadow loomed large, a harbinger of the storm to come. The fate of the Russian Empire rested on the fragile health of Tsarevich Alexei, heir to the throne. Born with hemophilia, his life was a constant struggle. The royal doctors were helpless until Rasputin was summoned. During a crisis, Rasputin prayed over Alexei, and the boy's bleeding stopped. Miracle or coincidence, the Empress Alexandra was convinced. Rasputin was sent by God. He became indispensable, not just as a healer, but as a spiritual and political advisor. Alexandra trusted him absolutely, and through her, Rasputin's influence reached the highest levels of government. The Tsar, indecisive and devoted to his wife, deferred to her, and thus to Rasputin. A whisper from the Siberian mystic could make or break ministers and generals. Rasputin had found his way to the throne. His hold over the royal family was unbreakable. The empire's fate was now entwined with his. Rasputin's power was rooted in his apparent ability to heal Alexei. Time and again, when the boy was near death, Rasputin's prayers, or his advice, seemed to bring recovery. Sometimes he visited, other times a telegram sufficed. Each time, Alexei improved, baffling doctors and tutors. Rasputin became a fixture in the royal family's private life, adored by the Tsarina and her daughters. His intimacy with the family scandalized the aristocracy. Theories abound: hypnosis, intuition, or simply stopping harmful treatments like aspirin. Whatever the method, Alexandra saw him as a saint. She dismissed all rumors of his debauchery as slander. Her faith in Rasputin was absolute. This devotion blinded her to the growing disaster. The royal family's trust in Rasputin would have dire consequences. The seeds of tragedy were sown. As Rasputin's influence grew, so did the fear and hatred among the elite. Ministers and generals saw him as a puppet master, the empress as his pawn. World War I made things worse. Tsar Nicholas left for the front, leaving Alexandra and effectively Rasputin in charge. Government appointments became a revolving door based on Rasputin's favor. Rumors swirled. Rasputin and the Empress were spies, lovers, traitors. Public trust in the monarchy collapsed. Rasputin became the symbol of corruption and incompetence. The suffering people blamed the royal family, and Rasputin most of all. For the aristocracy, the solution was clear. Rasputin had to go. The web of power he spun had become his own trap. The stage was set for his downfall. The empire teetered on the edge. By winter 1916, Russia was in crisis. A group of aristocrats, led by Prince Yusupov, plotted to kill Rasputin, not to overthrow the Tsar, but to save him. They believed removing Rasputin would break his spell over the Empress and restore order. The plan lured Rasputin to Yusupov's palace with the promise of meeting his wife. Poisoned cakes and wine awaited him. Rasputin arrived, ate and drank, but showed no ill effects. The conspirators' plan was unraveling. The night was about to turn violent. The poison failed. Desperate, Yusupov shot Rasputin in the chest. Believing him dead, the plotters relaxed until Rasputin staggered to his feet and tried to escape. More shots rang out finally. Rasputin fell. Fearing his uncanny resilience, the conspirators beat him, wrapped his body and dumped it in the icy river. When his body was found, water in his lungs revealed he'd drowned. He was still alive when thrown in. Rasputin's death became as legendary as his life. He seemed unkillable, a mythic figure who defied death itself. The conspirators thought they'd saved Russia, but the story was far from over. Rasputin's legend only grew. His shadow lingered over the empire. Rasputin's murder did not save the monarchy, it hastened its collapse. The empress was devastated, the Tsar's authority shattered. The conspirators were seen as decadent criminals, not heroes. 3 months later, revolution erupted. The Romanov dynasty fell. The Tsar and his family were executed. Rasputin had warned if nobles killed him, the royal family would perish within 2 years. His prophecy came true with chilling accuracy. Was Rasputin a mystic, a charlatan, a saint, or a sinner? Perhaps all at once. He embodied the spiritual hunger and political decay of a dying empire. His story is a warning: fear and superstition can cloud judgment, and private struggles can doom a nation. Rasputin's legend endures a haunting whisper from a vanished world. The Mad Monk's shadow marked the end of an era. His story remains one of history's most compelling mysteries.